and welcome to the State of the Cape address and program. This is the first time that the Cape Cod Regional Chamber of Commerce is doing this, and we're so glad that you could join us this morning. Now, this morning, we're in Studio A of the Cape Cod Community Media Center, and we're broadcasting this live, as well as having a group of interested business people and community members here with us today. I am Dorothy Savarese. I'm President and CEO of Cape Cod 5 Cent Savings Bank, but today I have the privilege of serving as the chairman of the Cape Cod Chamber. So what is it that we're doing today? Well, why a State of the Cape address? Well, what we thought about is the Cape Cod Chamber is in a position to know the issues of the Cape. We want to bring together a nexus of a talent to address those issues. We want to bring attention to the efforts that are being undertaken to make awareness known about work on specific projects. And then we have, we want to recognize our collaborators, and we have metrics to measure the progress and data to share with the community. Now, this data comes from a variety of sources. It comes from our Economic Summit and other presentations that we have sponsored, and then it has also come from our strategic planning. And in the process of this strategic planning, one of the things that we've identified is challenges and issues and opportunities that come from a variety of areas. Some of them are changes in our age of our population, increase in broadband technology to diversify our employment, reliance on a healthy environment and water for a productive economy, aging transportation systems, and good public education. Now, who is the Chamber? Most of you know. The Chamber works to strengthen the economy and promote regional vitality. We include cultural, environmental, and community concerns in our planning and our work. We see ourselves as a catalyst for a vibrant Cape Cod. Now, in our work, what we've done is organized ourselves into 4 major areas. It's what we call our 4 pillars. The first is economic and community development, whose mission is to increase the wealth of the community. The second is the Convention and Visitors Bureau, with a mission to achieve a sustainable year-round destination. The third, member services, with a mission to generate profitable business for our members. And the fourth is public policy, to lead development of policies that promote a strong business community. Now, in our strategic plan, as you'll see, each of these pillars has to work toward the addressing cross-cutting community issues. And these include transportation, water quality, workforce skills, education, youth out-migration, housing for all, a healthy visitor industry, and the reality of stressed government budgets. This chart of our strategic plan links our pillars to these community and business issues. One of the things that we recognize is none of this can be done alone. And we work with like-minded organizations who share our values, and that includes community-based organizations and government agencies, each bringing their own unique experience to bear. We're showing you now just a small sampling of those organizations, but as you see, they include economic and development and housing organizations, volunteer organizations, cultural organizations like the Arts Foundation, trade associations involving real estate and home building, and federal, state, and county agencies, as well as Cape Cod's elected delegation to Barnstable County, Beacon Hill, and Capitol Hill. So what do we want to do with today's event? In today's event, what we would like to do is share our findings. We'd like to explain our role in addressing the issues and concerns facing the Cape. And then we'd like to ask Cape Cod to work together to improve our economy and our future. So I'd like to kick this off by introducing Gary Sheehan. Gary is president and CEO of Cape Cod Medical Supply, and he's the vice chairman of the Cape Cod Chamber Board. He's also the chairman of our economic and community development pillar. And Gary is going to present some updated statistics and findings. So Gary, would you like to come up, please?
Dorothy indicated that the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, that we do feel that we're in a unique position to, both anecdotally and from a metrics basis, look at the economy in the region, create some objective measurements which we can monitor over time to help us better understand how various decisions are affecting and impacting the region. Clearly, Cape Cod has some unique strengths and opportunities as a region, and we have also some challenges over the next few years that we will need to face together as a region and to ensure that we continue to grow and increase the quality of life here on Cape Cod. We have a lot of detailed information to share with you this morning. Our goal with this information is to continue to update and feed this information over the web so it can be monitored over time by our community members. This morning we'll go through some of the top line highlights. I think our overall assessment is that the state of the Cape economy is good. Our current $9+ billion in gross regional product is moving up from a 2009 low of $7.4 billion. We would define our gross regional product as the market value of all final goods and services produced in the region. In our case, we're measuring that as the Barnstable Statistical Metropolitan Region. This would be equivalent to the gross domestic product that you hear reported on a national basis on a fairly regular basis. So in 2008, what you see here in 2008 and 9, we'll go to the next slide at this point, is that the Northeast took a very direct hit. New England particularly took a direct hit during the recession. The chart compares the New England region to other regions, and it shows that we had the third worst performance in real GDP behind the far west and Great Lakes. So what the chart indicates, I think, what many of us have felt or felt at that point in time, that it was very rough sledding here in the region as well as the country as a whole. The 10-year trend line, which is the next slide, indicates few surprises. We track here some real estate as well as other economic activity around rentals and leasing. There's another slide here that will show that real estate dipped real estate activity dipped to $1.5 billion in 2010, down from a high of $2.5 billion in 2002. Healthcare and social assistance sector, which is a slide here, you can see it's been on a steady climb from $650 million in 2001, excuse me, to $950 million in 2010. And then we have a number of other economic sectors in the region which comprise our economy, the majority of which have held steady and are on the rebound. Here we have leisure and hospitality, accommodation and food, arts and entertainment, manufacturing, transportation, information, professional, scientific, and technology. And again, all of these slides will be available to our members and the public at large on the web moving forward. Our plan, as we sat down to look at the economic and community development, was to build an objective set of data that everybody could tap into. It would be updated on a regular basis and would allow us to measure how things are happening in our region and what we need to look at and address, certainly moving forward. Obviously, the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce is heavily involved in promoting our region for travel and tourism. It is a key sector. It supports not only accommodations and food, but arts, culture, recreation, and entertainment. Calendar year 11 and 12 tourism numbers are up strongly. This has proven to be a very resilient industry. Clearly, Cape Cod has a strong brand here and a lot of unique elements in our economy and our natural resources that make it obviously a high-value travel destination for families across the country and across the world, actually. The employment in this sector has rebounded more quickly than employment in other sectors. After a dip in 2009, room tax receipts are up in 2010, again in 11 and 12, and ended at over $25 million collected in Barnstable County alone for 2012. Smith Travel research data shows a recovery in both the room rate occupancy levels and RevPAR, which is revenue per available room. It's a key measurement in the hotel and tourism industry. So we've seen a lot of strength in that sector. The region continues to be a net producer of tax revenue for the Commonwealth as the room taxes, et cetera, are passed up to Beacon Hill and then redistributed across the state. Again, all of these slides are available and will be available on the web at capecodchamber.org/State of the Cape. Again, that's capecodchamber.org/State of the Cape. We now look at the unemployment rate on the Cape versus the state of Massachusetts. It has come down from a 2009 high of 9% to the current level of 7.2%. It is just above the state average of 7%. Again, that measurement there is from 2005 through 2012. The bottom line in terms of the economy in this region, we have $9 billion of products and services created in this region. We feel we need to continue to grow that moving forward. We saw weakness clearly with the rest of the country from 2007 through 2009. From 2009 till today, we have seen strength varying across the sectors, but the general theme here would be that we're seeing a strong rebound and general strength across the region. We will continue to use this gross regional product data as a key measurement for ourselves and the community moving forward, and we look forward to making that available to all of you in the future. What we'll get into now is some of the issues that were identified through our strategic planning process. Again, I would credit Dorothy Savarese, Bill Zammer, Wendy Northcross was leading that process, but we'll look at some of the issues that we identified, our strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. We could advance to the next slide here. That would be helpful. Here we go. Obviously, we have a very strong tourism brand here in the region. We're well known throughout the world. I think we've all seen the look on someone's face when we tell them that we live on Cape Cod on a full-time basis. That resonates with people. They understand that. There's a level of envy typically when we tell them that. So Cape Cod has a very strong not only tourism brand but lifestyle brand that we want to continue to leverage moving forward. We have very strong healthcare and education sector in the region, both primary education as well as secondary education. Dr. Cox will be presenting later from the community college. We have a growing and strong young professionals community. We want to continue to leverage that moving forward as the region develops. And we have a very active and growing movement towards regional government in the region, which shows us promise for the future in what we might see from them. There's a few other points clearly here that are all strengths and things that we know well and appreciate about this region. Some of the current weaknesses that have been identified in the strategic plan, the transportation system clearly requires some investment. I think those of us who have suffered through some of the delays in the bridges over the last few years recognize that as a problem that needs to be dealt with. Workforce housing is a challenge. Many of you import workers throughout seasonal months and find it particularly challenging to find housing for workforce. And as well, that's an issue for folks who also are looking for housing on a year-round basis. There's a gap in the higher education, and clearly we're all well aware that our aging demographic places us among the oldest counties in the United States at this point in time. Some of the threats, obviously wastewater infrastructure has risen fairly close to the top of that list by most people's measure over the last few years. It's a problem that the Chamber is taking a leadership role on. We're working across, as Dorothy said, a number of different stakeholders, whether they're elected officials or other municipal agencies, nonprofit and business groups, to try and come up with creative solutions around that. Bears and sharks. It's an interesting problem we never thought we would have, but an opportunity. I think sharks we particularly see, joking aside, as a real issue that needs to be dealt with by a mature audience moving forward, and we'll see how town by town deals with that issue and how we communicate to the public the extent and breadth of that issue. And the recessionary stress on government budgets has placed a clear strain on municipalities across the region, and that is continuing. They are continuing to feel the fallout from that. Opportunities, which would obviously be where an organization like ours would prefer to focus. We have a very strong creative economy. We have a growing movement around the Smarter Cape and the addition of high-speed broadband to the region. The Chamber plans to play a leadership role in assisting the technology sector with developing that and leveraging the benefits that will flow from that. We have new higher education partners. There's several new 2- and 4-year education institutions that are locating or planning to locate in the region currently. And then we have the sort of undying innovation and entrepreneurial spirit that is a part of what has made Cape Cod special over several generations. The Chamber's strategic plan looks to address all of the issues that we covered this morning and many more that we did not have time to review. Again, as Dorothy said, we do that in conjunction with several partners across the region, and we thank you for your attention on that and for your partnership moving forward on these issues. Thank you for your time this morning, for having us, and for joining us in your living rooms. I will now turn it back over to Dorothy Savarese.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you so much, Gary. And let me reiterate, there is one of the unique things about Cape Cod is the number of people that join together to try to make it a better place, and that really is what makes it so special. So we began by telling a little bit about why we're here, and what we've just shared with you is some compelling information that we've unearthed and trends. And so what we'd like to do now is I'm going to talk a little bit about the Chamber's strategic plan and our vision and things that we're going to work on. And then we have the privilege of having a couple of panels with some of those very people about which we're speaking, many of whom are board members of the Cape Cod Chamber, to talk about industry issues and then to talk about some of our cross-cutting issues. And those panels will be led by somebody who's so well known to all of you, and that is Wendy Northcross. So we'll get to that shortly. But first, as I said, what we'd like to do is focus on the issue of, well, what does the Chamber see? And what are we going to do about it? And what could you do about it? So moving forward, one of the things I think that's important is to have a vision. And our vision for Cape Cod is a vibrant community, a welcoming community, which is a home to all ages and cultures that respect our pristine environment and our robust economy. In our vision, Cape Cod offers diverse and competitive employment opportunities, and it fosters a wealth of entrepreneurial efforts. It offers housing for all and a world-class education system from preschool to the graduate level. Cape Cod protects and promotes its recreational, technical, scientific, and cultural resources, and it leverages its unparalleled environment to lure guests, entrepreneurs, businesses, and retirees. Cape Cod's organizations work collaboratively together to tackle our challenges and to celebrate our success. That's what we see as our vision. And that vision unfolds every day. And again, we feel privileged to be part of that. So what are we going to do? Well, in the next 1 to 3 years, the Chamber of Commerce promises to do the following. 1, we're going to push for the development of a plan for the canal bridges. We're going to work to support expanded rail and air and train service into Hyannis. We're going to advocate for scientifically sound and financially rational solutions for wastewater. We're going to create a private equity fund for startup capital, establish an entrepreneur's launch pad at the Chamber office in Centerville, seek funds for a regional sports or meeting complex, fund more international visitor marketing, lure more Cape-wide events and meetings to bolster our year-round tourism, work to disseminate safe swimming information. Back to your, well, the bear actually did swim across the canal, so there is a little bit of smart there. And then continue to grow our average employment that Gary spoke about and diversify our economy with programs like the Startup Weekend that just concluded, Smarter Cape Marketing, Coastal Community Capital's access to capital as well as technical assistance, and our annual workshop series. And finally, we'll continue to represent the voice of business in the halls of the county, the state, and federal governments. And we will continue to meet regularly with our elected officials, as we did with Governor Patrick last week. So one of the things that we're doing, we're launching, and we're announcing it today, is that by the end of this month, we're launching our Live, Work, Play, Create website. And if we could go and show the homepage of There We Go. And this is a screenshot of our new homepage. Leveraging the Chamber's marketing experience in travel and tourism, we're going to tell stories of living and working on Cape Cod. And these testimonials are going to come from real live Cape Codders, and they'll be complemented by photography and then hundreds of links to key resources like many of our collaborators, the Cape Cod Young Professionals, Smarter Cape Partnership, and all of their websites. And you're going to hear more about the site in the next coming days, so this is all exciting. And we're going to invite you to link to this site, because you're probably one of those key resources. The next thing we're going to be doing, wedding destinations, our research and our strategic planning showed, are critical to Cape Cod. And so we're poised to launch a new destination website, which is going to be complemented by a destination wedding marketing. And if we could get that slide up, it'll have a marketing and advertising campaign with that. And again, one of the things that we've learned in our research is weddings are a very important part of business on Cape Cod. They tend to be weatherproof, which is one of our objectives, and they're sought after by destinations like ours. Now, in terms of thinking of Cape Cod's future, in addition to what the Chamber is doing, there are things that we think we all need to support, and we'd like to delineate 7 takeaways, because they always say you should have 7 things that you should focus on. So these are the top 7 things that we think Cape Cod needs to ensure a vibrant future. 1 is transportation systems that work, including better bridges, increased rail and air and transit bus service, and obviously Tom Kerr has been our leader in this regard. Adequate infrastructure, as we've talked about, including a plan for wastewater and a way to fund the plan, as well as a plan for the electric grid. Those of you who suffered recently know how critical that is. Speaking of weather, We want to weatherproof our visitor industry, ideally with a performing arts center, meeting and/or sports facility. Access to education is critical, and using modern technologies to leverage our existing resources is important. So having access to a four-year degree, whether it's a combination of what we have here now as well as distance learning, or our wonderful existing college facilities, marine science and STEM curricula and facilities, and lifelong workforce development, which is critical for our employers, but also critical for our residents. And David Augustino will be talking about that. Shore-to-shore high-speed broadband internet and access to that is critical to continue to modernize our economy. And we've said it before, housing for all, including apartments, condominiums, and clusters. And this supports people through their different life stages. Regionalized service delivery is something that we have advocated for many years and has been developing beautifully, but we have to recognize constrained municipal tax burdens, and there has to be increased efficiencies to deal with this. There's many things that we've seen developing. We think it's important that everyone support things like a regional strategic information office, watershed planning, regional permitting, and towns sharing services like weights and measures calibration, health and building inspections, emergency communications, and more. Now, how can you participate and help move along these important agendas? There are many, many ways. We've talked a lot about collaboration. Find a way to collaborate and make a difference. Identify projects where you can bring your unique competencies and interests and skills to that. Support programs like the Sandwich K-8 STEM Academy. Follow local planning efforts and proposed zoning changes or other efforts that are enabling cluster development to protect our sensitive ecology, transit-oriented development, wastewater infrastructure, as we've talked about, and others. And get educated on topics and attend town meetings, vote on ballot questions. One of the more important things is the issue of bringing our young people along. So mentoring and promoting young professionals at businesses, and this is something we're focusing on, providing benefits that help families with small children succeed at work is something individual businesses can do. Add a young professional to your nonprofit board or community advisory committees. Participate in the annual update of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which we fondly call CEDS, which is organized by Barnstable County and the Cape Cod Commission. They are looking for your input. Participate in the Smarter Cape Summit. This is a little bit of an advertisement. That's May 13 this year. And it's a wonderful opportunity for the community to get together to work on some of these major issues. Sponsor Startup Weekend to help launch entrepreneurs and their wonderful ideas. We showed you our Live, Work, Play, Create site. Link to that and help promote Cape Cod as a great place to live and work. And respond to our calls to action, which we issue to our members to contact elected officials and advocate for ways to effectuate change. One of the most important things is the issue of sharing your ideas. And one of the things that we do have is a lot of ways to do that. So we have Wendy's email up here, right? Okay, coming? Okay. And you've heard her on the radio. You know that she's open to that. But the other thing that we're listing here, because this is a collaborative effort among many of our leaders on our chamber board, you've seen one of them, you're going to see others, is to contact our Pillars chairs, Gary Sheehan, Bill Catania, Kevin Howard and Matt Lee, Joe Forgione and Howie Oenick, and let them know what your thoughts, ideas, and willingness to cooperate are. Now, as we promised to continue this discussion, we've assembled 2 panels of experts on Cape Cod's economic sectors and cross-cutting issues. And right now, I'm going to introduce Wendy Northcross, who is going to moderate these panels. Wendy is so well known, I barely feel the need to introduce her, except for the fact that when we talk about leadership on Cape Cod, there is one name that always springs to mind for me, and that is Wendy Northcross. She has dedicated her adult career to moving along all of the issues about which we have spoken today. And it's been an incredible privilege for me to serve with her at the Chamber. So please welcome Wendy Northcross.
Thank you, Dorothy. A little round of applause for our fearless leader. Thank you. I'd like to invite our speakers for the first panel to the podium. So if you'd come on up now, I think we'll have to do a little mic check, make sure your mics are on. But as a reminder to the audience, we will have all of the handouts that are in paper form today, also some of the slides that you saw, all right at the moment. So if you have your tablet or your iPhone, right at the moment they exist on capecodchamber.org/State of the Cape. And you can dig deeper into some of these stats and data that gave us our findings and our conclusions. But paper just goes so far and data just goes so far, and sometimes you need someone to tell you, what do all the numbers mean. We are very honored today to have a panel of industry experts who will speak from their own point of view relative to either their own business or what they see in their environment around them. So this morning I'm very pleased to welcome these folks to the podium. Actually, you're going to sit right where you are. Use the mic, and we will give each a few moments to comment on their business, and then we'll have a little bit of a conversation about that. So first I'd like to introduce Joel Kroll. He is the president and CEO of Cape Cod Cooperative Bank. And on Cape Cod, the financial activities industry generates about $1.8 billion in gross regional product. Next is Michael Luff, also the president and CEO of Cape Cod Healthcare. He is going to touch on the education and health services segment of our community, which at this point in time is about a $980 million gross regional product. The trade industry, Richard Penn, who is the president of Puritan of Cape Cod. He also chairs our retail council. He's going to speak somewhat to the trades, but also to what he sees specifically in retail. When we say trade, that's really retail, wholesale, exchange of goods for cash, hopefully, right? Or a Puritan credit card. You can buy a Puritan credit card. The value of that industry is around $960 million on Cape Cod. Bill Zammer was unable to join us today, but we do have Peter Carlson. Not that you're standing in for Bill Zammer. I don't think that's possible. But Peter is going to speak to the professional and business services on the Cape, which is around $669 million in gross regional product. Bill is going to touch on the leisure and hospitality industry, and I will probably backfill a little bit for Mr. Zammer. That currently is actually business and professional services $720 million, leisure and hospitality $669 million. The natural resources will be touched on by Rich Delaney, who is the CEO at the Center for Coastal Studies in Provincetown. So I'd like to start at the beginning with Joel Kroll, and just what do you see, Joel?
Thank you, Wendy. In terms of the issues that I would like to address, we've been asked to comment and create the same strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities to our industry. And so I think we would start in terms of the financial services industry as saying that the strengths have actually been the growth in our industries. Using the FDIC material that is published, and the most recent was as of June 30th, deposits are up on the Cape based on those Cape-wide institutions. They were up 6.45% at about $6.5 million. The statistics that support lending are less available, but there is increased lending, especially if we go back to 2008, 2009. I think you could say that in terms of lending, a great strength is the current rate environment. If you were ever going to borrow money, the environment is ripe for rates right now. in terms of all lenders, rates have never been as low as they currently have been in the last 6 months. I think you could say the investment and trust business is increasing. Much of that also relates to demographics. Demographics with an aging population is that increasingly they are looking for professional advice as it relates to that investment business. In terms of weaknesses, if you would discuss the world from a saver's standpoint, they are not happy. You have very low rates, and for those who chose a lifestyle that talked about living off of savings investments, it is a very low rate environment. In terms of other weaknesses, there is what I call the state of increased regulation and costs that come with self-regulation. Starting in 2008, although it's really started before, we as an industry deal with federal, state, and the FDIC, in which the trade-offs that are asked for by the industry are really to increase consumer protection. And it's hard to argue against that goal. But the trade-off is, if you've ever dealt with a financial institution or a financial firm, the manner in which you deal with us has changed because of the self-regulation that's required of us. So if you are someone who is wondering why all the things that happen do, much of it has been declared coming out of the regulatory environment. And clearly, even within that, since 9/11, national security has required that much of the industry standards take into consideration, and the industry is very involved in providing material that helps the government keep the world a safer place. In terms of threats to our industry, the threats to the industry really are the non-traditional sources. As the world has changed, more people have entered this industry, and so in many ways one of the threats is how we adapt to the threats that come from non-traditional sources. I think the second change is a potential change, which is when there is going to be a rapid change in rates, there will be a significant threat. The more rapid the change, the more rapid the threat. In terms of opportunities, the opportunities without question is what more means of technology can we introduce that make banking easier for the public. I think there are some opportunities as they relate to consolidation, and clearly, as you have read any national events, there is more consolidation going on in this field than in many others. And I think lastly, in terms of opportunities, there is much more emphasis on working with companies in their infancy stage. Much of this is what would be called credit enhancement agencies. SBA has made it easier for startups, and I think if you see Coastal Capital, you will see a rapidly increasing ability to work with startup companies.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill. We'll go on to the healthcare industry. Michael, what do you see?
Thank you, Wendy and Dorothy in the Chamber of Commerce. The healthcare industry is one that's changing rapidly, both from internal and external sources. Strengths associated with healthcare on Cape Cod, in Massachusetts, and nationally really involve a willingness to try new ways to treat and approach the patient population, partner with one another. It's key that we're moving into new areas where patients are being moved about the industry to different caregivers, and the information that's being exchanged in relation to that movement is the key. Specifically on the Cape, the willingness for all the providers to generally integrate, to provide better access, to provide better outcomes is clearly moving us in the right direction. There are many opportunities associated with the tremendous intellectual capital. I recently heard a speech by the governor in which he said our business plan involves intellectual capital and how we can recruit and retain more of the best and brightest. Well, that's no different than the healthcare industry. The Cape Cod has some of the best physicians, not only in the Commonwealth, but in the country. and the access to these incredible physicians is a key to how we change and evolve as not only a system on the Cape, but as an industry in general. I think that we have invested appropriately in information technology, but more needs to come. The key to managing populations and even the person specifically really involves the movement of information technology in a seamless, protected fashion. And I do believe the industry is focusing on it and doing a much better job. Lastly, I think you'll see in the future as a strength that it currently exists is that partnership that I mentioned at the outset. The willingness for both the physician, the healthcare community, and the government to find a way to integrate, to provide the necessary care for the necessary person in the right place at the right time. Some of the weaknesses associated with the sector involve, specifically on Cape Cod, our demographic. 25% of our population is over the age of 65. And with healthcare reform and different ways in which we're trying to create our reimbursement dilemma, that is a significant weakness for us. That does really limit the areas in which we can invest and potentially limit where care can be provided. I also think specifically on the Cape, we have challenges with regard to recruitment. Highlighting Cape as a destination for healthcare and the providing of healthcare resources is the key, and how we can overcome some of the costs associated with housing and to really understand the important role that new people can provide. And access is also a current weakness. We need to do better to get all of our patients in to see physicians in a timely fashion to avoid unnecessary duplication and downstream costs. And we as a community need to do more. Threats involve reimbursement specifically. Change is never easy, and I do applaud the government for trying new ways to create new systems to deliver it. The cutting of reimbursement is truly a dilemma. On Cape Cod Healthcare alone, over $250 million will be decreased in reimbursement over the next 10 years. As a safety net provider, that causes concern, but I also think it provides an opportunity, which I'll mention shortly. I also think that integration that I spoke of as a potential strength is also a potential threat. Can we really plan appropriately, put our parochialism aside, and create a system and a vision for the future? And lastly, the cost of doing business is also a threat. As costs continue to increase, specifically within our demographic, that provides challenges while reimbursement is decreasing. Opportunities are many in this industry. Advancement of new proposals, the accountable care organizations, integration, information technology are all being leveraged together to create a better system. Patients will be able to have their information shared from specialist to specialist and ensure that duplication doesn't occur. If we lead with quality, this industry will overcome the many challenges that currently exist.
Thanks, Mike. Richard.
Morning. Thank you, Wendy. It was interesting. Gary Sheehan shared with us this morning a couple slides of 2008, 2009, showing the state of the economy, which he correctly summarized as the 08-09 problem, which I'm sure none of us will forget. But the positive news today is that rising home and stock prices has boosted consumer confidence and therefore has increased consumer spending. This is obviously good news for retail. In fact, we found actually the consumer actually seems a little bit less fazed by the news coming out of Washington. I know in our company in December we were very concerned that the fiscal cliff was top of mind for our consumers, and we were concerned that this would adversely affect their confidence and therefore our holiday shopping season. But we had a very strong holiday season, and quite frankly, based on this, we knew the consumer confidence. We have a very aggressive sales plan for 2013. For Cape. For the retailers on the Cape, it's not so much unique to the Cape, but it's certainly an issue, and that is that, of course, every company needs to grow their sales. And one of the biggest challenges that Cape retailers face today is that consumer has so many options on where to buy their merchandise. The Cape population actually has slightly decreased over the last 10 years, while the storefronts have continued to grow, with, of course, this thing called the Internet, which, the consumer can shop 24/7 while never leaving your home. So today, to be successful for opportunity, stores must not only have great products and fair prices, but they have to offer a unique shopping experience. And this is where I believe the Cape is well positioned to succeed. The Cape is a well-known destination. It's a worldwide known destination. The Cape Cod brand, I think, is more Main Street than Wall Street. And retailers need to define what experience they want their customers to have in creating this unique shopping experience. I know recently in our flagship store in the last couple of years, you know, we have added a day spa, a fine dining, and a cafe all under one roof, all to try to add to this unique shopping experience. In addition, we see opportunities where many companies have leveraged the Cape Cod brand by developing their own products. There have been many success stories in the clothing, food, beer, jewelry, and other categories of consumer goods. I think this is, you know, as the Chamber and a lot of us continue to build on this Cape Cod brand, there's continue to be opportunities to leverage the Cape Cod brand, and lots of opportunities, you know, for retailers on the Cape. In closing, all indications are the consumer confidence will be positive in 2013. As I say, our company is planning a strong sales increase for 2013, and we think that's going to be true for other retailers on Cape Cod for this year.
Thank you, Rick. I think even our towns have good brands, like Chatham, with Chatham Chinos. It's a good branding strategy. I'd like to now introduce Peter Carlson, who's going to touch briefly on the professional and technical and services sector of our economy from his point of view. Peter?
Briefly.
Briefly.
It's $700 million, and we're talking about a very diverse industry sector. So professional and business and technical services encompasses everything you can imagine, from independent consultants all the way up to the technology companies that are here, that are the larger organizations. So from a strength standpoint, that is one of the biggest strengths. Is it's a huge population of consultants and companies. You know, we're talking thousands of individuals. This is a rich pool of resources to pull from. And that strength is because most people come here thinking, I'm not sure I can do business here. So they end up taking some of their business from off Cape and bringing it down here and operating as independent consultants. That, I would say, that is a trend that's been happening, you know, for decades. And there's no shortage of talent. If you look around, and this is one of the things I always find fascinating with the professional and technical world, is you find these people that show up, and we want them to show up at things like the Chamber events and Cape Cod Technology Council and things like that, where you find people that have tremendous experience going across all kinds of industry, from aerospace to, you know, defense to financial services. It's amazing the diversity of experience. And I also think, you know, another strength in this area is the flexible workforce, because some of these people don't need to work full time. They're actually independent consultants that are kind of dialing in the appropriate amount of time that they want to work. And so this kind of partial retirement works in our favor because they don't need to be full-time employees. On a weakness and threat standpoint, I think one of the things I have seen, which is discouraging but is changing, is the discounted, both from the rates that they're charging and also from the wages that some of these firms are charging or are paying to their employees. You know, the kind of discounted, the Cape Cod discount is not good for anybody. And I think that one of the things that we're trying to change is the fact that you can do your service here from Cape Cod and charge the normal rates that you would charge from any geographic region. So it should be consistent with most of the urban locales. The other threat, we already mentioned the demographic issue about younger people leaving. That can be a threat, but we can turn it into an opportunity. As long as the young people leave, get experience in other areas, and come back, that's what we're trying to do from the live, work, play, create standpoint. You know, we want these people to go out and get real-world experience, and a lot of the you'll see when you see transitions from generational businesses going from one generation to the other, a lot of those generational handoffs happen after the second generation comes back from somewhere else, and that is tremendous because they get other experience. I think also from an opportunity standpoint, you know, Dorothy mentioned this earlier, it is a great place to start a company. It's a great place to start any kind of professional and technical services company, but also any other type of company, from software to services. There's also amazing, like I said, the amazing amount of resources you can tap because these people have experience. They want to lend experience to startup companies. And The other thing I think is a tremendous opportunity is the fact that these are independent businesses. A lot of the companies down here are independent. They don't have to call back to the home office to get approval for things. It's, making decisions locally is tremendous from a services standpoint, because you have a lot more opportunity to make an impact.
Perfect.
That's
It's
my
good
brief.
to be nimble. Thank you,
It
Peter.
is.
And Rich, talk to us about the natural resources and the whale watch industry.
Thank
maybe.
you, Dorothy. Well, Wendy, thank you very much. This is a difficult sector to get a single set of metrics to measure. It's such a cross-cutting kind of concept, but it's very prominent here in the Cape. Just let's look at it from a national perspective first. Coastal counties nationally contain 18% of the country's land, but 36% of the population, but they produce 42% of the GDP. So we're a productive type of barn, and that includes Barnstable. If you look at it from the traditional job classification sectors that are usually considered maritime industry, like commercial seafood or tourism or marine transportation, the one that we stand out with is marine science and technology. We have 5,000, at least in 2006 study, we had 5,055 employees producing $1.2 billion worth of output. And the multiplier effect on that is one of the highest. So of all the marine sectors, we do really well, and we have a cluster or a center of excellence that should be nurtured and developed. In terms of Cape Cod strengths, which will be the next slide, we have 559 miles of coastline. That may be our biggest strength. And as the TripAdvisor recently announced, the #1 factor for people planning vacations anywhere is beaches. So we have wonderful beaches, we have a lot of coastline, and that's certainly a big strength. We also have a diversity of opportunities once people arrive here. Most of them water-related in terms of active sports, but also passive sports. Wendy mentioned whale watching. That's an industry that it's only still about 25 years old. It started on the East Coast in Provincetown. My Center for Coastal Studies helped launch it. Now we have 700,000 people a year taking boats out to Stellwagen Bank to observe whales. It's a great ecosystem or ecotourism kind of industry. We've mentioned Cape Cod as a brand. Well, the name itself is a strength. People may not recognize Barnstable County, but they certainly know Cape Cod. And we have great institutions like Cape Cod National Seashore, one of the preeminent national parks, 4 million visitations a year at that site. So it's a great asset, and people 50 years ago had the foresight to put that aside, and we're hopefully doing the same for future generations here. I mentioned the Marine Science Centers of Excellence, and generally our environment, our natural resource base is healthy, and it's a great asset, but I put an asterisk beside that on the slide because we do have some potential threats. So I'll transition to weaknesses and threats. Fish stocks are threatened. We've, as you know, had a little bit of a challenge managing those in a sustainable way. They need to be managed very conservatively. We need to rebuild those. That's not only for the commercial fishermen, but the important recreational fishing industry that brings so many of the tourists here to Cape Cod. I mentioned the 559 miles of beaches, of coastline, much of which are beaches, but the majority of that coastline is in private ownership, which is fine, but we have to still maintain enough public access and open space to accommodate our tourist industry. Water quality, and I think we'll have another panel on that in a few minutes, but the nitrogen loading that's going on in our bays and inlets is a major threat. Dorothy correctly stated the Chamber's position, which is we need to have an immediate, Cape-wide, cost-effective, science-based plan of action to deal with that. And if you're still a doubter on this issue, look at the New York Times front page article today, a satellite photograph of Lake Erie. 1/3 of it is turned to lime green from the algae blooms that are happening there. So we need to deal with that issue. And looking a little bit further downrange or long range, we need to be aware that the climate is changing. We're going to have more hostile, volatile weather. There'll be erratic, sandy type storms are going to happen. We need to plan in advance for adaptation methods and mitigation where we can. Our opportunities looking ahead will include, since fisheries, wild fishery harvests will be exceeded by aquaculture produced fish worldwide by 2018, will be the same in Cape Cod. We need to plan for how to take advantage of sustainable aquaculture. There are right ways to do it and wrong ways to do it. We need to do it the right way, but it's an opportunity for us here. Ecotourism is one of the fastest growing components of worldwide tourism. We're primed to be, again, a leader there because the people who like to do ecotourism want small-scale educational experiences in a healthy environment, and we can provide all of those as well. Renewable energy, we've had a long time discussion about a big project in Nantucket Sound, but there should be other opportunities, and our science and technology expertise will help guide us to opportunities there. And we have 73 marine science and technology entities existing here in the Cape. I think that was from 2006. We need to grow that industry, particularly because that's the kind of expertise that will help us deal with some of those future challenges around climate change, water quality issues, and how to do aquaculture properly. And I'd end by saying that the underlying all this is a general awareness of us here in Cape, we who live here in the Cape, that a healthy environment or a healthy ecosystem is the basis for a healthy economy. And people recognize that. I think if we grow that awareness and take action on it, we will have many opportunities in the future.
Thanks, Rich. Good job, gentlemen. I just wanted to share briefly, Bill Zammer was asked to touch on the hospitality industry, really from the point of view of a restaurateur. He's got a very interesting one-pager, which we will put up on the website because there's certain things that only Bill can say well. But his number one concern was about gas prices. They're expected to be at an all-time high this summer. But he really doesn't think that that's going to be a barrier as much as value. Our customers are looking for value. They want a great experience. They want to be well served. And he references Michael Porter, as I think even Peter talked about. Michael Porter, who's a Harvard economist, said that Cape Cod is one of the most recognized brands in the world, yet we tend to discount our prices. We tend to do that in a lot of the hospitality industry and obviously the professional services as well. And he said, we are not pricing our product correctly, and we need to reprice and be fair to what our product actually is. That's also going to help bolster the jobs in those sectors. He also said that he said the Cape Cod Chamber has done a great job, thank you, Bill, but in terms of destination marketing and advertising. But the Mass Restaurant Association's outlook is to have a 3.5% increase in growth this year. He believes the Cape will probably exceed that. Weather has a great impact on that. And his opening paragraph really related to technology, which is what I wanted to kind of bridge into the next panel about. But every single sector up here talked about the impact of information technology and what a challenge it is. I mean, it really is moving at such a pace that our industries, the Cape Cod Chamber, for example, we have just launched brand new websites. We now are going back in to redesign to enhance the user experience so that it works better here, because exponential growth, double-digit growth in people using handhelds to get to websites is driving that. So even though we have a beautiful new website, we'll be investing more resources into that to make that workable and talk to people where they want to be spoken to. So I think the IT industry is probably a great opportunity for us, and Peter made great points about how this is a localized industry, something that we can keep and own on Cape Cod, and that's a great opportunity there. But I'm going to transition us now into the next panel, if that's okay with you, so we can keep on going. You have information to access for all these people. Will be around for a few minutes after we turn off the TV cameras. But right now, I'd like to thank our panelists and call up to, yes, thank you. I'd like to call up to the tables here. Our cross-cutting issues panels is what we're calling them. We have the transportation sector, Tom Kerr, who's the executive at the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority. On wastewater, Andrew Gottlieb, who is the executive of the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative. Housing will be discussed by Jay Coburn, the recently appointed executive director of the Community Development Partnership. Education will be covered by Dr. John Cox, the president of Cape Cod Community College. Workforce skills, David Agostino from our Workforce Investment Board covering the Cape and Islands. And then we've invited Town Manager Tom Lynch to talk about regionalization and municipal budgets and see what's happening from the government's point of view. It's really also important to understand how that educated employee factored into all of those industry sectors, and I'm sure that's an issue for our cross-cutting panel as well, and that the government is a partner with us in a lot of the work that we do here, especially on Cape Cod, where we are fortunate to have strong municipal governments, but also a very active regional government. But I'd like to start to hear what this panel has to say, and I'll ask Tom Kerr to give us the view on transportation.
Well, thank you very much, Wendy, and thank you, Dorothy, for this opportunity. One of the things that we've been trying to do on the Cape for the last several years is to create a robust and vibrant public transportation system. We have 400 square miles that we're responsible for, and we've been working at the RTA to do just that. One of the earlier speakers talked about gas prices, and with our public transportation, which is reliable and with trained and safe drivers and experience is a good one, it's a lot cheaper and more affordable for folks to get around. So we're marketing aggressively to make people aware that it is a good system. One of the issues that obviously is a concern here on the Cape is, and has been for a while, is traffic congestion, and the bridge access and canal region has been a problem that the Chamber has aggressively taken on. With Wendy's leadership and others, we've, I think, made some significant inroads by bringing the Massachusetts Department of Transportation and the Army Corps of Engineers together on a regular basis, the leadership of those two organizations talking regularly, collaborating, and being aware of what the other is doing. We've created a task force, a Canal Region task force that has effectuated positive change by bringing in technology that's allowed the motorist, the visitor, the resident to understand what traffic is like in various parts of the Cape, but specifically in the Canal Region. And this year we're going to be having some Bluetooth readers, which is another advancement in technology that will allow people to know what's going on in and around the bridge area. So I think that some very positive things are happening as a result of the Chamber's involvement and leadership there. One of the other things that we're working on is we're going to have, for the first time in 20-plus years, passenger rail service to Cape Cod, emanating from South Station on Friday night, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning throughout the 13 weeks of summer. We're very encouraged by the interest and receptivity across not only Massachusetts but all over the place, and we're very confident that that's going to be a success. And we're working to make that successful by getting more cars off the road. Come to the Cape for a car-free experience. There's going to be a Cape Cod sort of flavor on the train. We're going to have Cape Cod products, Cape Cod potato chips, Pocasset pretzels, and things of that nature that have that Cape theme. So we're very pleased and excited and confident, and that will start on May 24th this year on Memorial Day weekend. Another opportunity to get people here without their cars. And once they get here, they're now able to get around to the 15 respective communities on the Cape with public transportation, which didn't really exist as reliably in previous years. One of the other things that we've done is we've created a multimodal committee, which has all the executives from the various transportation modes meeting on a regular basis to look at opportunities to collaborate, look at opportunities to coordinate services. And I think that's been a very positive experience. We talked to the ferry folks, the folks at Highline, the Steamship Authority, Cape Cod Central Railroad. We have the bike community participating. So everybody knows what the other's doing, and when we can work to collaborate and make things better, we do that. And obviously our state and federal legislators that provide a lot of the resources that make public transportation work have been very attentive to our needs. And fortunately, we have Senator Wolf, obviously, who's got a good transportation background, who's done a lot of very good things and pays a lot of attention to what we're up to. Some of the other strengths that I think that we have is we now have public transportation in all 15 of the Cape towns. We have fixed route service, which allows people to get all across Cape Cod on public transportation. We've created a couple of new Upper Cape services emanating from Bourne and Sandwich that now allows you to go to all 15 towns and get there reliably. And we have a daily dial-a-ride service, which if you call in, you can go wherever you need to go, and not just to attend leisure activities and appointments and doctor's appointments, but it can get you to anywhere you'd like to go, so including work. And so that's a very important service that's somewhat unique to the Cape in terms of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Another strength is in transit is the electronic fare system we've just implemented, and we have NextBus technology, all these new technologies that are allowing for a better and more convenient ride for our customers. One of the real weaknesses that I see that will always be around is that the roads on Cape Cod were never really built to accommodate the volumes of traffic that they're dealing with nowadays. We have 200,000+ year-round residents and many more in the summer months, and so the roads are not really built to accommodate them. So that speaks further as to why public transportation is important, but it works, it helps business, and it helps the economy thrive if people take our services to work. So I look forward to any further discussion on this as we go along.
Thank you, Tom. So, Andrew, talk to us about the wonderful world of water.
Well, as you've already heard, and as Rich began the process of laying out, the issues around water are clearly central to the long-term sustainability of the Cape, both environment and economy. And while our wastewater issue provides an enormous challenge, and it's easy to look at it simply as a negative, I actually think that we've progressed in the last couple of years to a point in time where there's a building consensus around the nature of the problem, and most importantly, I think a consensus around the need to address it in a way that is mindful of what kind of community we want to maintain, and to do it in a way that allows the region to solve its water quality problem, maintain its tourist economy base, and do it in a way that allows the people that are going to live here and pay for it to afford the solution and be able to stay here to enjoy the benefit of the outcome of the solution. So it's one of these times where we've come through an enormous amount of struggle. There's been a lot of debate about causes, the extent of the problem, and I think a growing recognition, largely led by early on the business community, which a lot of people would find as something of an irony. This is typically the type of thing that in other parts of the state has been driven by the environmental community. And on the Cape, interestingly enough, the business community was very early to the party in recognizing the role of the healthy environment to its long-term interests. And that has really helped us in building the consensus to deal with this issue. But we're at a point in time where a lot of the fighting about whether we have to deal with this problem, how we're going to deal with this problem, has been put behind us. And now we're at a time when we've seen the environmental community, through an environmental summit, come up with a cohesive statement about the importance of dealing with our wastewater management problem. As I said, the business community has long been on board and is making real strong contributions to dealing with this issue. And levels of government, both county and local governments, have come a long way in thinking about ways to work together to come up with a solution that works, that's in the common interest for the ratepayers. And we now have, I think, significant progress in partnerships with state and federal government, all of which are pointing us at to a time, I think, in the next 18 months where, as a region, we're going to be able to come up with solutions that are tailored to the Cape, that provide for a mix of solutions that run the gamut from conventional on-site Title V systems staying in place where they're appropriate, the use of innovative alternative technologies, both in terms of advanced types of on-site systems that will be in the backyards of businesses and homeowners, alternative waste management approaches that look to reduce sources of nitrogen, all the way to small and medium-sized wastewater treatment facilities. All of those solutions have a role.
And I think we've gotten to the point where, at the various levels of government and with the broader community, we're starting to talk about how you put those different technologies and approaches together in a way that lowers cost and gives you some certainty about environmental outcome. And we've gotten past the point where sort of the advocacy for one of those alternative approaches or one particular technology comes at the exclusion of all the others. Because I think there's a broad consensus now that we'll end up with a mix of technologies and approaches to come up with a solution that, on a watershed by watershed basis and a community by community basis, solves the problem in the way that's most appropriate for that particular water body and that particular community. And we've gotten past the notion that anybody is going to impose a one-size-fits-all approach across the Cape, that there's going to be broad disparities between winners and losers. I think there's a recognition now that we're all in this. We all contribute to this nitrogen problem to some degree, some more than others based on where they are physically in a particular watershed and their proximity to a water body, but everybody contributes something. So everybody has some share of the financial responsibility to solve the problem, but by the same token, everybody benefits from that problem being solved. And so, you know, we will be, over the course of the next 18 months, managing at the county level a broad-based discussion in each one of the 46 nitrogen-sensitive embayments on Cape Cod with the people who live in each one of those watersheds, those people who benefit from the use and enjoyment of that watershed, whose property values are supported by the water quality that comes from a vibrant and natural environment along the lines of what we've been accustomed to over the generations here. And we'll be engaging individuals who have a stake in those embayments in a discussion about what types of technologies and approaches make sense, working with the towns, working to help towns more effectively communicate their shared interests with their neighboring communities as a strategy to lower the overall cost of implementation and minimize the amount of infrastructure that's required. So this is, I think, one of those rare times in public policy where, after many, many years of struggle, and not that the hard part's over, but that we're actually engaging in a discussion about what makes sense and how to solve the problem. And I think that's borne by a recognition of the seriousness of the problem and a recognition that a no-action alternative, where we as a region choose to do nothing, doesn't mean we won't be paying for it. If we do nothing, we'll be paying more than if we do. And so we have an opportunity collectively, and I think a broad responsibility, to actively manage this problem in the interests of our ratepayers and taxpayers and business owners, because collectively we have the opportunity to lower the overall cost of solving this problem and not being passive about it and letting somebody else implement and impose a solution that will be more costly and less effective than what we come up with on our own.
Thank you, Andy. We also at the Chamber view it as a job opportunity, new companies that will be created around operations and maintenance of some of these systems, and that's another positive outcome of this whole thorny topic.
You know, there's an opportunity to be had here. Whenever you sort of aggressively manage, intelligently manage your problem, there's an opportunity to create business opportunities, long-term job prospects that won't be realized if somebody from off Cape is left with the responsibility of figuring out what it is we're going to do. So it works from a job preservation point of view, it works from an economic preservation point of view, and if we're smart about it, it builds in some long-term permanent economic opportunities for people who live here.
Thank you. So Jay is going to touch on housing a little bit. We asked him to do that. His expertise really is in the lower and the outer Cape, but the fact that you heard even Michael Luff speak about housing and its impact on getting the right workers that they need in the healthcare system. We certainly know it's an issue for the young professional community. But Jay, talk to us about housing, how you view it. And you guys have been doing some great projects to try to come up with some answers. So
thanks, Wendy, and thanks to the Chamber for organizing this. I think one of the great strengths that we have, and when we look at housing, is just the broad consensus that we have throughout the community, among the public, among our community and business leaders and our elected officials, that we have a tremendous need for more affordable housing, and how that need is so intertwined. If we're to have a successful economy, we've got to have a place where all Cape Codders can afford to live. The other great strength we have on the Cape, too, is a whole host of organizations. In addition to my organization, the Community Development Partnership, where we've been working on affordable housing and economic development on the Outer and Lower Cape for the past 20 years. We've got organizations like the Housing Assistance Corporation, the Harwich Ecumenical Council for Housing, Habitat for Humanity, the Cape and Islands Regional Network to End Homelessness, Housing for All, the Cape Cod Commission, and the housing authorities and housing trusts that we have in nearly all of the 15 towns on the Cape. However, there are some important weaknesses and threats that we face in dealing with creating housing on the Cape. We have a tremendous affordability gap, and that's very much so on the Lower and Outer Cape, where housing prices are largely driven by salaries in New York and Boston, and not on Cape Cod. Cape home prices are 10% higher, yet wages are about 30% lower than in the rest of the state. In Truro, where I serve as a selectman, neither our town administrator, the superintendent of our schools, or our police chief could income qualify for a loan to buy the least expensive house in our town. So clearly, that affordability gap is creating a big problem for people to own homes. And then when you lay on top of that the challenge of so many of our housing stock is reserved for the busy summer season, makes it very difficult for people to have year-round rental housing. We also lack infrastructure. We've talked a lot about the wastewater problem, but we also have infrastructure problems around water needed to create affordable housing. And then you add on to that the state and federal government having a huge priority of providing funding for affordable housing and wanting to see that in a scale of having 50 units in a development with about 99 bedrooms as part of that. Well, in a town that doesn't have sewer or water, that would require 23 acres of land to support that kind of housing. And we also have great, uncertainty about the future of federal and state funding, which is so important if we're going to create more affordable housing. However, there is some good news and some exciting opportunities. There's a great development that the Community Development Partnership created in Harwich in 2011 called Thankful Chase's Pathways. And this is a nationally recognized and award-winning project. It houses 12 families. It's only the second LEED Platinum certified affordable housing development on the Cape. And the combination of solar panels on this development, as well as energy-efficient construction, has lowered the utility costs and makes this a much more affordable place for our residents to live. The Community Preservation Act is providing resources to the towns to be involved in affordable housing development in a serious way, and many of the towns are looking at zoning reforms to encourage cluster and top-of-shop development. And so while we've got some significant challenges across the region, I think we're making great progress. But however, we must continue to make great progress if the Cape's year-round and seasonal economies are to be sustainable.
Thanks, Jay. And I do think you shared with us a slide. If the control room can find that picture of Thankful Chase's housing development, it's really beautiful and it's a really well-done project. But I'm going to let them find that and segue to Dr. Cox to talk about education.
Thank you, Wendy. At times like this, I often wonder why I didn't take the live theater class that was offered in the business program at college, but I stuck to the accounting. As I was contemplating the strengths, the opportunities, the aspirations, and the results that are involved with Cape Cod Community College, I thought it would be good if we started off by painting the picture of what we're doing now and what we're building off of. And basically, as you all are probably aware, Cape Cod Community College is the only comprehensive higher education institution on the Cape, serving the Cape, the islands, and a substantial portion of Plymouth County. Over the course of the year, we serve about 6,500 students on the credit side and about 2,000 on the non-credit side through our Hyannis Center. And if we look at the data connected with our graduates 1 year out, 1 year after graduation, we go back to the most recent data available, which is 2010, we had 529 graduates. When we drill down on those graduates and find out where they are now, we know that 81% are employed, and they're employed at the most common employers on the Cape, Cape Cod Healthcare in several of our municipalities, nursing, dental, and rehab agencies, and many are self-employed. In that group, there's also 48%, almost half, that are in school pursuing other educational opportunities, whether it be more professional certification or advanced degrees. And then you have about a third of those folks are doing both. They're working and they're back in school. So you see that we do add a substantial value in terms of producing graduates that have a meaningful role in the employment of Cape Cod. As we look at the 6-year trend with our students, and we go back to the fall of 2006, we had about 3,100 students that entered in our programs at the college. If we look at what happened over the past 6 years, 41% of those students have graduated, 20% have transferred, and 6 are still enrolled. We do have a substantial part-time student enrollment, and it takes a little bit of time to complete programs. A key aspect here is that just about half of our graduates go on for further education, whether it be professional certification or advanced degrees. And it's interesting, as we build off of the comments that Bill Zammer left for us about value, if we take the opportunities available at 4Cs, you can come to 4Cs, you can be engaged as a full-time student, you can complete 30 credit hours a year for 2 years, $5,000 a year is the retail rate. If you get financial aid, it can be less. You can then transfer those credit hours out to other universities. And there are people that do it every day, from the BUs in Boston to the BU in Providence. It's a very meaningful way to add value to the higher education journey for many of our students. And that's on the certificate side as well, where we have students completing their certificate and entering the job market. So in terms of trying to pull this all together, I have 5 themes that I'd like to present really quickly in my 2 minutes that I have allotted. The first theme, and as we talk about our strengths, our opportunities, and our aspirations, is in the K-12 area and our non-traditional students. As we begin to work a little more aggressively with our K-12 partners throughout the Cape and the islands, we're working on aligning our programs so that students test better on the college placement exams. We have opportunities for dual enrollment where students want to enter the college, take a course while they're still in high school, and we create pathways to degree and professional certification completion that actually begin in the high school, travel through the community college, and can take you either into the workplace or on to the university. In addition, we're recognizing the rise of the MOOCs, which I'm sure everybody knows what a MOOC is now. It's not a new breed of cow. It's actually it is early morning, so I guess I'm losing out on the humor factor here. I told you I needed that live theater course. It's the massive open online courses, and these are coming out of several of the major universities, the Harvards, the MITs of the world, where they're making their coursework available to students around the world for little or no cost. The college is working on ways that we can assess the learning that happens through these MOOCs, and we can also award credit. So the bottom line is, it's going to create another opportunity to help drive down the cost of higher education moving forward. We're also working very aggressively in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics area, the STEM area. We're working on a Cape-wide STEM strategy with the K-12 partners that we have. And the hope is that we will ultimately align programs from the middle school through the high school into the community college and then on to either the workforce or into the university setting. And by aligning the different players in the educational pipeline, we're able to both share the ideas and the skill sets that we offer, but we're also able to compete in a much more powerful kind of way when we're trying to get external funding for certain projects. So we're increasing the likelihood of assessing or accessing resources from other entities. In addition, we have several business collaborations that are ongoing. We've worked very well with the Workforce Investment Board on the accelerated career training programs, where we've taken training courses that span 2 years and we've compressed them down so that you can literally finish in 1 year and then go out into the job market and secure a very meaningful job. We've also rolled out what we call the Q terms, the quick terms. And basically, this takes the fall semester and pushes the start date back to the October timeframe, and it makes the spring semester end a little bit earlier. And we're recognizing the needs of many of our students who are employed in the hospitality industry. Their schedules roll out into the beginning of the fall semester, and they start a little early in the spring semester. So we're trying to make it possible that students can continue on with their educational journey and balance life's demands going forward. In the health career area, we've had a substantial investment in the dental hygiene clinic. We're working on our outreach programs. We've just rolled out an LPN to RN offering at on Martha's Vineyard. The really exciting aspect of that program is that we've now aligned with the Marine Biological Laboratories in Woods Hole for the use of their science labs. So we're providing world-class lab facilities at community college prices. It enables our students to get to a program without a major challenge. We're able to offer the educational opportunity to students that may not have been able to move up in their job had they not had this opportunity.
Running out of time, Doctor.
Oh, no. I'm always, that's what happens when you let educators talk. I can't count to two. It's a challenge. Anyway, I can take a hint. You see the 5 themes up on the screen. If you have questions, email me. But I would like to just wrap up by saying that at the community college, there are literally over 400 very dedicated individuals in the faculty and the staff that are really making this a success for the entire Cape. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to stress.
I'm the first one to be cut off.
I know. I got to earn my keep up here as moderator. No, but we are very fortunate as a Cape to have a very high quality K through 12 education system. And as you must know, Massachusetts ranks #1 in the country for education attainment in our public school system. Not by accident. It's been a mandate of state government and a goal and an aspiration. We are extremely fortunate to have this institution of higher education here in our own backyard.
Can I just get one other
Sure,
point
go for it.
At the college, we do have the Cape Cod Center for Graduate Education, and this is it's actually made up of a separate board of K-12 folk. The community college and business, and we actually are surveying and keeping active, engaged with the community to find out where upper division degrees and graduate degrees are necessary, and then we go out and we seek proposals to have those degrees offered on campus. And we've done that most recently with the MBA program through UMass Dartmouth. So you do have the ability to build 4-year programs and graduate programs on the Cape between that and our articulation agreements.
Yes, we
now
do.
Be quiet.
Thank you very much. Well, that's a great bridge, though, to David Agostino, who's the executive of the Workforce Investment Board, who really does an assessment of the Cape's needs in terms of our skilled workforce, certainly partnering with the community college. But David, talk to us about our workforce, where we're at, where we're going.
I'd be happy to. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here today. Thank you to the Chamber for putting this event together. It's real hard to plan for the future if you don't know where you are currently. So the state of the Cape, I think, is a great topic. I do have slides. I don't leave the house in the morning without a few slides just in case I have to do a presentation or something. So,
They actually had them up earlier. I think we're gonna get a peek at them now.
Well, because what I'm going to say really depends on the slides. But I want to say that one of the great parts of being Executive Director of the Workforce Investment Board is that I work with all of the individuals who are here today. All of these sectors are within our purview. My big picture job is to make sure that there's a labor force that's available and appropriate for the businesses here on the Cape. So with that said, in speaking about skills, this first slide gives some of the good news and the bad news. The good news is that the Cape is one of the better educated regions, even within Massachusetts. And Massachusetts, of course, is well known for its educational attainment. But if you look at this slide, I'd call your attention to the blue bars down at the bottom of each of these areas. This is educational attainment by age, and if you look at those bottom two slides, you're going to see the ages from 25 to 44. And in almost all of the areas, you're going to see that younger population is less educated than the older population. So the reality is that, yes, we're well educated, but it tends to be many of the individuals who are retiring here, who have second homes here, and retiring here, who are the better educated. So part of our task for the future is to make sure that we increase the educational levels, as Dr. Cox was alluded to. My second slide shows that in many of our areas, if you look at the part of the charts on the right, that has a percentage of individuals within these sectors that are more highly educated. So you can see that bachelor's degrees are higher. In healthcare and social assistance, you would expect to see a large number there, and you do. And we're about the same as the state. But when you get down to retail trade, and especially in accommodation and food services, you see about 35% of our individuals in accommodations and food services have college degrees, whereby the state average is about 16%. So we do have a lot of individuals here, I would say, that are somewhat underemployed in some of those areas. So it's not that we don't have individuals with skills or education. Sometimes they're working in areas that might be a little less than what we would like to have them working in. So when we talk about barriers to employment here, the holy triumvirate is housing, childcare, and transportation, most of which everyone's talked about, although I don't think anyone addressed childcare. It's a critical issue for our workers, and I know that it's one that we'll continue to work on. Of course, the good news is that we have an aging demographic, so child care for some employees is not the most important. The next slide it shows some of the good news. And the good news is that we've been growing the percentage of degrees and certificates that we've been awarding quite significantly. And this chart is from 2000 to 2010, and you can see compared to the state, we've increased our certificates by about 15%, the state only about 4%, and same with our associate degrees and bachelor's degrees. We're doing a better job. Now, some pessimists might say that that's because we're starting from a low base, but the fact is that the college and our individuals are more attuned to the needs of acquiring more degrees. I'm going to skip the last slide. But what I like to say is that several people have talked about the professional, scientific, and technical areas, the so-called STEM areas, and that's an area that if we're looking at skill shortages, that's an area that we need to do a lot more in educating our population, especially for jobs in companies like Convention Data Services, Hydroid, Onset Computer, Teledyne Benthos. These are all companies that depend very much on that scientific software engineers, those kinds of educated individuals. Cape Cod Healthcare, of course, has a huge need for highly educated technical individuals. As a matter of fact, that's one of the big changes from my perspective that I've seen in healthcare over the last few years. When I first started here in 2000, the call was for a lot of entry-level people in healthcare, whether it was in the in the doctor's offices as schedulers and unit secretaries, certified nursing assistants. Now the call is much more in some of the more technical areas. Physical therapy assistants or occupational therapy assistants, LPNs, RNs, those are all areas that we need to be doing quite a bit more in. When we talk about skills gaps, it's not just basic education. We have areas such as line cooks that are always highly in demand and paid quite well, as a matter of fact, here on the Cape, and various management areas, especially in the banking industry. Dorothy Savarese often talks to me about the need for us to be growing some of our own individuals who can step into the higher level management positions within the banking industry. So that's kind of a quick overview, but in the opportunities that I would talk about are the ones that Rich Delaney so well pointed out. Marine science and technology is a real strength for us. From an economic development perspective, if you looked at an area where we have a competitive advantage, it would be in the marine sciences. With Woods Hole and Marine Biological Laboratories, the operation that Rich runs out in the Outer Cape, there are lots of opportunities. The companies that I mentioned before, several of them fit into that category also. So I think that's an area that we could look to as we try to diversify this economy and try to increase the number of jobs. That would be one of our strengths that we could really look at. So that's kind of a quick and dirty overview.
Good job, David. And just to remind you all, these slides also exist on the Cape Cod Chamber's website, capecodchamber.org/State of the Cape. Easier to see some of these crunched numbers up close and personal. But like I said earlier, government is a partner with us in economic development and a strong community and a strong economy. So I asked Tom Lynch to come and speak to us today. Tom was actually started out his political career as a state rep, worked his way down to County Assembly of Delegates, and now he is the Barnstable town manager, doing a phenomenal job with a group of people I got to know very well when I was at the Hyannis Area Chamber of Commerce. But he's got a broad perspective. It's from the town's perspective today that I primarily asked him to speak about the future of strong government budgets and how we're going to work together as municipalities. So, Tom.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I couldn't help but notice that all the presenters have been men, but the ones that are leading us are women. So I think there's a message for us there. I want to say from the hub of Cape Cod and Barnstable, we believe the state of the Cape is healthy, wealthy, worried, and wise. One finds strength in the management of our individual towns. We have smart public managers. We meet regularly. We're committed to providing essential services at a low cost. A healthy property tax base, less reliance on local aid and federal government than many other communities, and the investments we've been making in many of the communities across the Cape in our infrastructure are strengths which will ensure that government plays a supportive role in moving the economy forward. It's always my belief that we want to foster an environment for economic growth and strike balances with all of the competing interests that we have. We have a wealth of human capital on the Cape who invest their time and talent with us by serving on multiple boards and committees, and their efforts help us to confront our weaknesses and then turn our strengths and turn them into strengths. And certainly we couldn't exist at the local government level without the significant contribution that they make. But there are weaknesses which cause me to worry. When large infrastructure needs arise, some of which have been talked about today, the wastewater problem or the repair to private roads that we confront in our town, which demand large sums of public dollars. Can we raise that money locally? Do we have a climate where people will, accept overrides in any way? Beach closures due to high chloroform counts may be a greater threat than shark sightings. Water quality is more worrisome than a wandering bear. Our threats include our own desire to provide all things to all citizens, and our citizens asking for that. Some see regionalization as a threat to local control. Others see regionalization as a loss of services. With our recent storm that we had and the difficulties with citizens feeling that they didn't have access to a regional emergency shelter in their town was something that at a very recent meeting, towns throughout the Cape, instead of moving toward a regional center, are saying, we're going to put generators in our schools, we're going to make sure we can take care of our own. So that need that citizens see for each town to do its own thing and put pressure on to our elected leaders and town managers is a real threat there. Federal cuts on grants may slow our ability on certain projects. We rely on grants for a variety of things, whether it's at our airport or other places where the federal government is very generous to us. When you see the cutbacks filtering down, that's where I think we might see it more at the local level. And I'm as worried about an aging population that's putting a drain on our social services and our health care system as I am about the young people who, might find the bright lights of the city more attractive than Cape Cod. But I do believe opportunities abound. We may be wise beyond our years because in many areas we work together to develop a common vision. I was very pleased to see, as Dorothy outlined, the common vision of the chamber, how many of those fit with the daily discussions that we have around the work table in Barnstable Town Hall. Communities have embraced regionalization on many fronts. We're regionalized on veteran services, weights and measures, healthcare purchasing, e-permitting, and Regional 911. And there are really over 60 ways that we now collaborate. Yet we know there are areas that towns duplicate things, and perhaps the intermunicipal, agreements that are out there that you see some towns merging school systems and other, major services may help reduce some of that duplication. The Wall Street Journal rated Barnstable as a great place to retire. And so we want to keep doing things that cater and foster that market. Barnstable County has been rated as one of the 100 best communities for young children, and we need to continue to invest in our kids as we have with our youth center. And no matter what age group you have in Barnstable, they're willing to put their monies into children and education. The TripAdvisor talks about Barnstable as an up-and-coming destination. So we know the importance of tourism. We'll continue to fund that in our budget, and we should never lose sight of that economic driver. So we believe we must address and will continue to address our concerns through thoughtful budget planning and implementation. And we want to keep the positive reviews of our community coming by remaining vigilant about the effort it takes to keep our environment healthy, our economy wealthy, and our citizens wise. I thank you for this opportunity, Wendy.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you very much. Well, I think we are have exceeded the time that you are able to sit and listen, and certainly we have archived all of this video for people to go back and recapture some of the thoughts. Again, the slides, the data, the Dorothy and Gary's speech will be online momentarily. The handouts are already up there online at capecodchamber.org/State of the Cape. But in a nutshell, we are very bullish on Cape Cod. We feel very optimistic. Sure, there's going to be some headwinds. Gary pointed out some of the challenges and some of the nuances of that, but we think we're a very smart community. We're a committed community. Most people on Cape Cod have chosen to be here. They really want to work on making this place work well and stay well and be a real, true community. So we feel very optimistic. We think you should too. We ask you to join us in this work, and we thank you for your time and attention this morning. Thank you.